Well, hello and welcome to Everything You've Learned About Dating and Relationships is Wrong, Episode 4. I'm Jonathan Asley, and I'm a dating coach I'm basically a midlife dating coach specializing for those of us that are in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. I say midlife is after baby making years and before retirement. So if you fit in that category, you're in the right place. And today's topic is the art of getting to know someone. Now, let me tell you why I want to share this with you today. Have you ever had a great connection with someone only to have them pull away or pull back? I'm sure you have. And one of the main reasons why this happens, and what's one of the greatest challenges for dating in this time in our lives, is unlike pre-internet dating, almost everybody you met, this is like before the 60s. So say 60s, 50s, 40s, 1900s, whatever you want to go. Most everybody you met that you began a relationship with somebody that you knew or you were familiar with. If you grew up in a small town or you were in a work environment, chances are you knew someone. And today, most of us are dating strangers, people that we don't know very well. And so one of the greatest challenges is to get to know someone. But the problem with today is we're getting to know people on a virtual basis and not a face-to-face basis. Let me repeat that. We're getting to know someone on a virtual basis and not a face-to-face basis. So what's happening is there's a lot of texting, a lot of telephone calls, maybe even FaceTime, email communication, that sort of thing. And that's where our basic communication is coming from. But what's interesting, and I want you to think about this, since 70% of communication is nonverbal, meaning it's facial gestures, it's hand movements, it's the energy of your body, there's this false sense of intimacy that's beginning to happen when we have virtual communication, especially lengthy telephone calls, lengthy text messages, lengthy emails, because you're not really getting to know someone through a virtual world. And yet for many people, and I mean many, they believe they have this amazing connection with another human being, but most of it has been driven on a virtual basis. And so why I want to talk today and why it's called the art of getting to know someone is that a friend of mine says it takes about 100 hours of belly-to-belly time to really get to know someone, to really get to know if they're a good fit for you. Okay, think about that, 100 hours of belly-to-belly time. So if you met on your first date for 2 hours and your next date for 2 hours and your next date for 2 hours, it would take a fair amount of time to get to know someone. Now, whether it's total face-to-face belly-to-belly time or intermixed with some telephone and text time in there, the reality is it's that face-to-face time is needed to really get to know someone. And what's interesting, and since my specialty is helping women understand men tend to fall in love through experiences with another person. Think about that, for example, experiences, social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, whether it's bowling, whether it's socializing with family and friends, but it's through experiences that we really get to know another human being. And most of you know men are visual creatures, so we're going to need that visualization in this process, whereas women tend to fall in love between their ears. Now, I'm not making this up. This has been said to me. So by others, by scientists and such. So what's interesting, when we have virtual communication, a woman might feel more connected to a man, whereas a man needs experiences. He needs to feel that physical presence is how he really connects with another human being. So this topic is the art of getting to know someone. And so what's the fallacy right now is there's this, again, false belief that you've gotten to know someone when it's been mostly virtual communication, text messaging, emails, or telephone calls. And it's through belly-to-belly or face-to-face experiences. I know some of you might be offended by the term belly-to-belly because you might be thinking of it this way versus this way. I mean it this way, face-to-face versus on top of one another. So please forgive me, I'm being a little bit funny here. But it's that time together. And so here's where I want to challenge you for a moment, because there's this expectation that men are the drivers in the dating process, and there's this expectation that men know what they're doing. And ladies, I can tell you with a fair amount of certainty, men aren't really proficient at this. Men aren't thinking about what I'm sharing with you. Men aren't reading the books about how to create a healthy, happy relationship. Men are reading books how to meet women. After that, we have no clue what to do next. This is why I encourage my clients to recognize that they are in charge of their relationship destiny. And where I'm going with this is, it's how do you create that face-to-face time? Well, in the dating process, you start to suggest doing things that's face-to-face and spend less time talking and talking over the phone and texting, and spend more time face-to-face. And yet this can be really challenging for those of you that are choosing to interact with people that live more than 10 miles away. The further someone is away, the harder it is to get that face-to-face time. And what's so interesting for those of you that are considering long distance relationships, many of you like it because it's over the phone. You feel like you're creating this great sense of intimacy, but you're not. You're not creating that kind of connection because, again, if communication is 70% nonverbal, it's not fully, you're not really creating that connection. You're creating a false sense of connection. Are you getting my point here? So being conscious and aware that getting to know someone happens through experiences is so hugely important. And before you ever give your heart to someone, ideally you want to have at least spent 100 hours. I call it my 10-date rule, but 100 hours, like my friends suggest, of a lot of face-to-face time through experiences. And again, as a woman, you can guide a man, you can inspire a man to suggest what to do. And this is where it gets tricky, because most dating today is so much romance driven and not friendship driven. I'm going to repeat that. It's romance driven and not friendship driven. When it's romance driven, it's expected that the man does the chasing or the courting through romance, and a woman surrenders to love. Okay? The reason why, but then you're putting all of it on him. So when he doesn't choose to do experience-based dating, like I'm suggesting, don't be so surprised that you don't have as strong as a connection as what I'm suggesting to you right now. Through experiences, it might be spending time with friends. It might be going, like I said, bowling, not that that's, you know, whatever, it's bowling, taking hikes, go for walks, going shopping. I don't care what it is, but it's something where it's an experience. Go to a museum and make those suggestions. And by planting the seed in your consciousness right now, my hope is that you'll start maybe inspiring someone that you're connecting with to do activity-based dating, okay? Or even hobbies. I know one woman, after the first date, she pulled out a deck of cards and she suggested, this is on her second date, she goes, do you like playing gin rummy? And I'm like, yes, and I loved it. And we used to hang out and play gin rummy all the time. You know, it's interesting. You know, my son is in college, and the woman or two that he's dated during his time in college were people that he knew because they spent a lot of time doing things together before they ever started going down a romantic path. And that's what I'm trying to suggest to you, is that friendship-based dating with kissing, in other words, has to have some spark in there, that's driven by making the friendship connection through face-to-face time or belly-to-belly time, has a much greater chance of success than a romance-based dating or a virtual way of dating. Now, I know many of you are thinking, well, Jonathan, the guys are just, you know, that's all that they're doing. Well, I don't care if that's what they're doing. I want to encourage you to shift this dynamic, to shift this parameter, to shift this paradigm to being more activity-based dating through friendship, because men will fall in love through experiences, not over the phone. It's a false sense of security. Again, the art of getting to know someone through experiences has a much greater chance of success than over the phone, text messaging, or emails. I hope you got value out of this. If you did, please post some comments. I'd love to get some conversation going. And if you want to learn more about my coaching program, shoot me a message. I'd like to tell you about Midlife Love Mastery, where you could be part of an amazing community of women that really is there to help enhance your love life. As always, I'm going to send a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug and wishing you a super duper wonderful evening. Thanks so much. Bye now.